Well, Jumbo trainers, good evening. Good evening. It is wonderful to connect with all of you today virtually. I want to welcome you to this IP class demonstration. It's actually the last one in the series that we've done. Today's class is going to be chapter 6, Faith in the Magical Universe. And in case you're new to the series, we and you are now able to view a different trainer teaching all 7 of the IP chapters. And we have all of them already posted. This will be the last one, and then we'll post it up, so you'll have all 7. So if you're new, it's a really great way to get an idea of the content, to see different teaching styles, and of course, to learn the material. And if you've been a trainer for a while, we hope that this series will sort of refresh and ignite your passion for the IP material, help you get excited, learn some new ideas and resources, and kind of up your training skills by watching some other trainers do what they do. So thank you, all of you who are here with us live and who are watching the video. We're happy to have you. And today we are joined by our guest trailblazer and trainer, Jim Herbert. So I feel incredibly honored to know Jim, not just as a trainer, but as a soulful man and a really good friend. I also really feel the joy of having watched him transform since taking this training. And I've seen him evolve and emerge as one of the very well-respected mentors and trainers in our community. And Jim dove in. He has now led over 50 plus IP related workshops and webinars since his training in Chicago, which was just close to 3 years ago. He has fully stepped into the role of speaker and writer, spiritual teacher, and coach. And I've watched his leadership develop in producing, creating, and then running these storytelling skill workshops, grief acceptance programs, men's empowerment circles. He's done a virtual talk show that he does monthly called Stories from the Path. He also teamed up with some other IP trainers to do a full day workshop. I mean, it goes on. And his professional background includes leadership roles and training as well. And for more than 20 years, he has been a yoga and martial arts instructor. Jim has been involved with our community here since he trained. He's been at several IP conferences working on the crew, including Solopalooza. He and his talented wife, Christiana, have done a demonstration on the main stage. They've done breakout sessions. And most recently, Jim took on the role in Santa Fe as he ran the breakout room as the MC and the host. Jim speaks with passion and soul and inspires others to embrace their emotions as a bridge to a life that is fully engaged. Please welcome our guest trainer tonight, Jim Herbert.
Big heart for all of you. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Regina. I'm, as you might suspect, deeply moved and very touched. Well, hello, friends. We're coming into the home stretch of our time together exploring the world of infinite possibilities, and we have just 2 more sections to go together. But don't despair. We don't have to go our separate ways after our time working here in this webinar series is finished. In fact, quite the opposite is true. Getting through the material once is really just the first step on an exciting and mysterious path that we'll be traveling for the rest of time, both individually and collectively. And speaking about steps, I thought I'd kick off our discussion on faith and the magical universe today with one of my all-time favorite quotes. And it comes from the very quotable Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, who said this: "Faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase." And it's really touching to me. Anybody else out there heard that quote or it resonates with them? You can just wave your hands if that's something that resonates with you. And I just totally love that quote. And we're going to talk a lot today about faith and magic. But before we dive more completely into today's section, what I'd like to do is a quick check-in on what we've covered so far. Because in my mind, we're at a really important milepost in our journey towards living the life of our dreams. In fact, when we connect the dots in what we covered in our first 5 sessions together with this next concept of faith, I would challenge anyone here to deny that you're already living the dream. Each and every one of us. And much like Dr. King, I have a dream. In fact, I have big dreams for humanity. So in session 1, we talked about how our thoughts became things, and we learned visualization skills to help us empower our thoughts and our manifestations. Then next in chapter 2, we talked about our belief systems and how the things that we believe play a significant role in how and what we think. We learned how to install new empowering beliefs to replace our older limiting beliefs. And we also talked about the very important idea of acting as if, also known as daydreaming. And when you daydream about the life you think you already are living, so much magic comes true, even though they might have told you in grade school that you were a distraction because you were daydreaming. Next up in session 3, we debunked the idea that our emotions are a weakness. In fact, I've learned that is so much not true, especially working in the men's groups. People want to use their emotions. They crave and desire the ability to feel their emotions without any shame. Our emotions are our greatest gifts. They provide us the feedback on our life journey. And we learn that even our negative emotions serve us an important purpose, because while we're moving through them, we're already seeing the valuable awakenings. Then next up, session 4, taking action. We were given a great gift in session 4. We were told that we only need to do one thing to lead a life of purpose and intention. All we need to do is take action. And the great news is, it doesn't even matter what we do or what kind of action we take. Just do anything, because the big you already has an infallible pathway laid out for you to your divine success. Even if you take wrong turns along the way, in section 4, we learned to introduce the idea that those wrong turns are just simple diversions on the path. And also, in section 4, I think one of the most important truths with a capital T is revealed. And that truth is, you don't have to worry about the cursed house. You do not need to figure out how your dream is going to unfold. You just have to believe it and then do something. And then the last time we met in session 5, we were transported back to that time when we were all magical children. We talked about instincts, hunches, dreams, and desires, and we were reminded of the days when we believed in unicorns and mermaids and fairies. Oh, and when we saw angels, and we had imaginary friends, also known as spirit beings, which are still here. And most importantly, we were still tuned into the magic. We trusted our gut, we trusted our hearts, and that was long before somebody told us to forget about that nonsense and use our heads. Oh, and in lesson 5, each and every one of you was also reminded of a time in your adult life when you followed your hunches and they led you down a path to joy and bliss. So now, with that toolbox full of truths and possibilities, why should you not believe and go out each and every day with the faith that everything's going to be just fine? The magic is always there. With the faith in God and the universe, you will totally know that somebody's always got your back. And I'm going to talk a lot more in this session today about faith in God and the universe. But before we do that, I want to take a minute and check in with you on a couple of things and also do a little personal reflection. In today's session, we're going to be using our Infinite Possibilities Art of Changing Your Life workbook if you have it with you. And if you don't, that's okay too, because you can just use some blank paper and something to write with, maybe a pen of your favorite color or even a burnt sienna crayon if you have one handy. And many of you know the significance of the burnt sienna crayon. You also might want to have something to drink around, like a cup of tea or a glass of water. And by the way, if you need to get up during tonight's session and leave for a minute, you can come back right where you're at with the trust in knowing that everything here is recorded and you can jump back in and you'll be able to watch it all later and not miss a darn thing. So now, about that personal reflection. I want you to all to take a minute here and I want you to think about your number one dream at this exact moment in time. The big one, not the little one, the one that's so hard to wrap your mind around that it actually scares you while you're doing your visualizations. For me, it's that sitting on Super Soul Sunday with Oprah dream. It's the being the keynote speaker at a conference when you're introduced by Tony Robbins and he says you're the best speaker he's ever seen dream. So let's just take 1 minute on our own and just think about that big dream. You can either jot it down in a corner of your workbook, or you can write it on paper, or you can just sit and think about it. Okay, we have time for a couple people to share at this point. If you'd like to share your big dream with the group and put it out there for the universe to hear, you can either unmute yourself or wave your hand. I'd love to see 2 or 3 people share their dreams. Anybody game? Doc Crit, why don't you unmute yourself and share your dream?
Hi, my dream is to be the best possible version of my true self that I can possibly be.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Who else wants to share their dream? I think Cato waved her hand. Yes? Cato, you're next.
I love the Super Soul Sunday, but I want to get the big check from Ellen.
I like that.
Do something for the community and get a big check from Ellen, along with the key to the city of my small town.
Who else?
Doing something.
Somebody else want to share their dream? Debbie?
I want to go on stage, and I'm not going to worry about the cursed house, but I want to rock the audience. I just want them to just absolutely love what I'm presenting, which of course is going to be some version of IP.
I love it. That's a great dream. We got time for a few more. Anybody else? Laura?
Yeah, it's booking that big retreat with all the millionaires and billionaires in the audience and talking from stage about IP and other things that I do in wealth and wisdom coaching.
Welcome to your dream. Greg, you wanted to say something. You're not unmuted, Greg.
Oh, my dream is to dance a jig at my 100th birthday party.
Well, we're creeping up, right? How many more birthdays do we need, Greg?
17.
17. That's a piece of cake. You've already done 83.
I know.
Wendy, did you want to share your dream? I saw you nod your head. Unmute yourself and share your dream.
My dream is to build a breast cancer network utilizing IP and reversing that disease on its own.
And I can't wait to come and speak at it because it's in Kalamazoo. It's only 90 minutes from where I live.
That's
awesome.
Right.
Those were great shares. Thank you so much for putting yourself out there, because when you put yourself out there, as you know, the universe hears and it's ready to step in. So now let's dive a little bit deeper in and define a very complex word, faith. Who here thinks that faith involves religion, or at some point in your life thought that faith meant religion, right? Me, that's what I'm always scared about. I always think, oh, somebody's going to get all religious on me when they start talking about faith. In fact, I find that when I start talking about faith, the majority of people think I'm going to get all religious and they start walking in the other direction. But in fact, quite the opposite is true. I love the example that Mike lays out in the workbook on page 64. It's a really wonderful and understandable definition of faith. An airline pilot does not need to know how a plane is built or which part of the engine will provide the thrust in order to get in the plane and fly it across the country. Similarly, you do not need to know exactly how the universe will help you manifest your dreams in order to live a life of intention and purpose. Just like the airline pilot, you only have to play your small part and trust that the rest will be taken care of. So then the question is, how can we trust in something that we can't define, see, or grasp? And the answer is faith. Now, you don't need to be religious or spiritual at all to accept that you've been using faith for your entire life. Here's some examples. How do you know when you wake up in the morning and swing your legs over the side of the bed that they're going to support you when you stand up? Faith. When you see the sun set at night, do you go into despair thinking the light will never come back? No. You know there's going to be light in the morning. That's faith. How do you know that when you exhale and release all the air that's in your lungs, that the universe will provide more air for you to breathe? Once again, the answer is faith. Faith is a crucial element in every part of our existence and in every success in our life. Faith is how we explain to our hearts what is unexplainable to our minds. Faith is how we trust in the unknown. Faith is how we persevere in our darkest moments. Now, every once in a while, I have someone come up to me and say something along the lines of, you know, you, Jim, you and your positive attitude of yours, I don't know who you think you are or how you can go around just living your life on blind faith. Anybody ever hear that from their non-hippie friends or their family members? You and your blind faith, right? Here's the good news. Faith can be solid and reliable. It does not need to be blind. In fact, having solid, reliable faith can be greatly assisted by two simple things: experience and understanding. First, let's talk a little bit about how experience plays into the role of faith. In our 5 sessions together, you've already provided yourself with a toolbox full of truths that affirm the fact that your past experiences are either deliberately or at the very least accidentally summoning in life's magic. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotions, your actions, and your intuitions, they all carry you further down the path to your own independent personal bliss. Now, let's instill the faith to believe that we never have to fear anything again. So either in your workbook on page 65 or just on a piece of paper, I'd like you to take a couple minutes and I'd like you to list 3 dreams that have already come true for you in this lifetime. And you're welcome to go back in the workbook and find examples that you used in previous chapters because there's already material there. So let's take 2 minutes on our own to reflect and write out 3 dreams in our life that have already come true. And we're going to roll this right into part 2 of the same exercise here. And if you're using your workbook, immediately below, there's the slots for 3 future dreams, or you can just take on your blank piece of paper and write 1, 2, and 3 for your future dreams. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to take the big dream that you brought up earlier in this call, and I want you to put it in position number 3 for future dreams. And then I want you to fill in 2 other dreams, either near term, midterm, or long term, above number 3. So when you're done with this, you'll have your 3 previous dreams that have already come true, and then you'll have your big dream in slot number 3 for future dreams, and 2 other dreams as well. So we'll just roll right in to you guys working on that, and we'll give you 2 more minutes. About 30 more seconds here to wind down. All right, so let's all come back to the circle now. And here's what I like to call a little diversion question to get your brain out of that space of deep thought. Quick question, just rhetorical. Who here likes to cook or bake? And if you do, you can just wave your hand at the screen. Okay. So, what are the 2 magical ingredients that make everything better? Anybody want to answer? You can throw it out there, unmute yourself. Gina, you guys want to answer? Answer.
Love.
Perfect. Anybody else got one?
What did they say? What did they say?
No. They said love.
I said butter and eggs. Oh, she said butter and eggs. No, I think
butter and eggs.
joy.
I said butter.
Butter. Anybody else?
I say joy.
Joy. Perfect. I love the fact that some of you went away from the diversion question and didn't just give me ingredients like vanilla, butter, and sugar, because actually what I was going to say to you are the 2 ingredients of love and gratitude. Because love and gratitude make everything better, even when you're cooking food, right? When you're mixing the dough, if you're putting love and gratitude into the dough, it's going to taste way better. So now what we're going to do is we're going to supercharge our workbook exercise with love and gratitude. Now you can either grab a blank piece of paper now, and you will need blank paper for this, or you can make this homework for later tonight because you've already collected all the material you need to do this supercharged exercise for your faith. And this is how we're going to do it. And while we're doing it, I'm actually going to pull up my example and show it to you because it will help you get an idea of what this will look like. Let me fast forward through here. Perfect. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to take your first previous dream that's already come true, and it's very important that you write these words verbatim, and you're going to write, I am so grateful and thankful that, and then you're going to fill in your first dream that's already come true. And then you're going to follow up by writing, I love the fact that it won't be long before I will be, and you're going to fill in the first of your future dreams. And while you're doing that, I'm just going to read you mine. I'm so grateful and thankful that I opened up and owned my own martial arts studio for 10 years. I love the fact that it won't be long before my first book about men and their emotions hits the New York Times bestseller list. All right, and then we're going to go to number 2. Might have lost my screen share there. And then for number 2, you're going to write, I'm so grateful and thankful that. And then what you're going to do is you're going to follow that up with your dream number 2 that's already come true. And then when you're done with that, you're going to go ahead and fill in your second dream that you're looking to have come forward, and you're going to write, I love the fact that it won't be long before, and then you're going to bring in the other dreams, the second of your yet to come true dreams. And then lastly, you're going to write, I'm so grateful and thankful that, and you're going to write in the number 3 dream that's already come true for you. And you're going to follow that up with, based on my own life experiences, I have 100% faith that my heart will swell with love and joy when I, and then you're going to fill in your big dream. And I'm going to give you a minute to get caught up on that.
Can you say that again, that last one?
So the last one is, based on my own life experiences, I have 100% faith that my heart will swell with love and joy when I, and then fill in your big dream, the one that we talked about at the very beginning of the program. So what you're doing here is you're creating an imprint for your mind and your heart to know that you've already accomplished so many things in your life. So each time you say, I've already done this, and you acknowledge it, and you follow it up with a future dream, it's an easier distance for your brain to travel. And in that case, you start to develop a deeper sense of faith. So you can continue to work on this for about 30 seconds more, and you can go back to it later tonight, and then you can fill it out completely. And then later, when we're posting the link to this, if you didn't get all the words exactly correctly, you can copy them down. But here's the important thing to remember. It doesn't matter exactly, even though I said verbatim, what the words are. You're creating an intention for yourself. So if different words feel better to you, put those in there. The important thing is you want to acknowledge your gratitude and thanks for what's already happened. And you want to express how much love you're going to feel when the next thing happens. So the point here is you've already done the work in your life. You've proven to yourself that everything is possible. And then just take that evidence and post it somewhere where you're going to see it on a regular basis. I'll do this exercise on a regular basis. I'll put it on my bathroom mirror. I'll leave it on my vision board. I'll fold it up and tuck it in my wallet. It doesn't matter. As long as it has a special piece of energy for me, it will work. I promise you. Now, we're going to move ahead to that second component. So I'm going to bring everybody back in, and you can finish a little bit later if you need to, but we're going to start to talk a little bit about understanding. So we've already covered how experience helps us enrich our faith. Now let's talk about the concept of understanding. And understanding comes from intelligence. And there's a great piece of news here for you all. There are countless writers, speakers, spiritual teachers, coaches, movies, books, etc., that are more than capable of helping you on your path to understanding. Understanding really what? Well, to me, understanding the simple truth that life is not that complicated when we distill down all the external circumstances. In this program alone, we've already covered virtually everything you need to know to live deliberately and with intention. So when you run into those people who are trying to tell you that life is hard, that people are mean, that the entire planet is in peril, turn back to your material and immerse yourself in it. Now I've got mine. Here's some of mine. The Secret. How many times have I read The Secret? So many times. Illusions by Richard Bach. I can read it in 3 hours. I've probably read it at least 50 times. The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. One of my #1 recommendations to anybody starting out on the path to understanding the power of the simplicity of life. The Celestine Prophecy, this tremendous story and movie about belief and faith and understanding and stepping fully into your life purpose. So what are some of your items that you would like to go to or that you do go to help increase and affirm the understanding that life is pretty easy? Let's take a minute here. I'd love for some of you to share some of your go-to pieces about making life easy and having faith. You can just unmute yourself and throw something out there. Let's open it up for a minute or two here. Anybody? Pat and Paul. You got to unmute yourself, Pat and Paul. There. Try it again.
Whenever I'm not doing well, I just tip YouTube Abraham Hicks, and I
There you
can
go.
always find something.
That's a go-to for a lot of people. Anybody else?
I'll step in, Jim. I do Abraham Hicks as well. I also do Andy's vibration activation. And when I'm at the gym, I've got Mike Dooley in my ear with Infinite Possibilities, whether it's the chapters out of his book or whether it's one of the downloads I've done of some kind of speaking engagement he's done.
Awesome. You could do a lot worse than a pair of Dooley brothers. I'll speak to that. Anybody else want to share something? Carolyn. Yeah.
Catherine Ponder.
What is that, Carolyn?
Catherine Ponder.
Catherine Ponder. I'm not familiar. You taught me something new.
Catherine Ponder is a Unity, I think she's Unity minister, and she has books on prosperity and a number of different things, but it's really helps me connect with letting go and knowing everything is okay.
Perfect. Thanks for that share, Carolyn. That's great. Anybody else have something they want to share with the group? Jump in. Just unmute yourself. Be in Deb.
Pema Chodron.
Yes.
He's actually a Buddhist monk.
Yeah. We talked about that in Santa Fe. Thank you for that share. That's beautiful.
And I love Celestine Prophecy and Don Miguel Ruiz also. Very wonderful books. And the movie.
Thank you for that, Debbie. Another great suggestion. Anybody else before we wrap up our shares?
Joseph Campbell.
Yes, absolutely. So much richness there. Doc Crit, you had something to share.
Thich Nhat Hanh.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Super powerful. See, there's so many resources out there, and everybody's got their own go-tos, but you can use your go-tos or you can jump in on something different. And that's what's beautiful about our community right here, and it's beautiful about life in general. So here's a really tricky question then for some people. What am I supposed to believe? Well, that's a question that we each need to ask and answer for ourselves. Now, Mike reminds us that it is one of our highest responsibilities as humans to think for ourselves. We need to ask ourselves the hard questions about life. We need to ask ourselves the hard questions about the nature of reality. We need to ask ourselves the hard questions about God, the universe, the divine. And the thing is when we ask those questions, we discover that they have empowering and beautiful meanings. For the sake of example, I'll give you a 1-minute summary of what I believe. I believe we're living in the most exciting time in all of human history. I believe we're on the precipice of humanity's great awakening when the power of love will once and for all overtake the love of power. I believe that each and every one of us has accepted our role in this great story with intention. I believe that we all have the same desire to feel connection to source energy, to help our fellow humans, and to ascend to the highest level of bliss and enlightenment in this lifetime right now. I believe that every single possible path that we or anyone else can blaze has the same potential ending point, and that ending point is at the top of the mountain. I believe that there are an infinite number of awakened beings and spirit guides waiting to help us when we send out our individual and our collective call. I believe that all emotions, the good and the bad, can be diluted down to one of two things: love or fear. I believe that when we accept the truth that there is an infinite amount of love in this universe, all fear will evaporate and disappear. And most importantly, I believe in us. I believe that each and every one of us are cast from the same divine matter that is God, the universe, source, higher power. There is no separation between us and the divine. All the greatest spiritual teachers of all time have essentially said the same thing. You are the divine. There is nothing but love. And so it is. So I ask you this. What do you believe, my friends? Well, let's start by asking ourselves a few questions. And I'm going to give you a little starter kit of questions to begin the conversation. Question 1. In the beginning, before there was even time or space, what was there? Take 30 seconds to a minute and just sit with that and think about it, or you can jot it down in your workbook or on a piece of paper. So while by nature that's a mind-bending question to answer, and people have spent lifetimes trying to find that answer, I'd suspect that at least a few of you wrote down something like God, higher power, divine intelligence, thought, etc. Am I right? Who here wrote down something like that? Anybody? Perfect. Let's try another question. If at one point there was nothing but intelligence, awareness, thought, etc., and now there are planets, stars, and beings, then what must everything be made of? Take about 30 seconds and reflect on that. Now this one's not quite as mind-bending, right? With your answer to question number 1 in mind, everything must have come from intelligence, awareness, or thought. And that takes us right back to what we learned in our very first session together, that our thoughts become things. Let's try one more question together. Question 3. If where there was once nothing but God, now planets and beings exist, what must everything be made of? Boom, right? I don't even need a minute to think about this one. We must conclude that everything must be made up of God, the divine, the universe, source intelligence. What else could there possibly be? And in that scenario, how could anyone or anything out there ever be less than God? What else could that thing possibly be made of? If there was once only God and only the divine, then there could only ever be God, including us, with a capital US. So you can see here, by simply connecting a few dots, we can easily see that the universe is not just our ally, it's a part of every fiber of our being. It roots for you and it cheers for you, and most importantly, it loves you beyond measure and without any conditions, every step along the way. You are one with everything and anyone that has ever existed, so how could you ever possibly be in it alone? So what am I supposed to do next, you ask? The answer is simple. It's practice, right? Anybody here get the hairs on the back of their neck stand up when they hear the word practice, right? You go back to like clarinet or like choir or something that your parents made you do when you were a kid. Yeah, me too for a long time, until about 20 years ago, I had this amazing thing happen very early in my martial arts career. So I think I was maybe a year into my practice, and I practiced with a small group as a satellite dojo. And then I'd go to the main dojo when I could, once a week, once a month, whenever. And there were very talented upper level black belts at that dojo. And there was one man in particular, his name was Sam Loisis. He was about 10 years older than me, and he was from Greece. And he absolutely terrified me. His arms and his legs were like tree trunks. It seemed like nothing in his body was even remotely susceptible to any harm or bending or anything. And after working at the main dojo and getting to know him a little bit over 6 months, he came to me one day after an evening session and he said, Jimmy, he said, I want you to come. And he says, Jimmy, I want you to come to the dojo on Thursday mornings at 10 a.m. We practice together. And of course, I'm shaking on the inside, but feeling really honored on the outside. And I said to him, that'd be great, Sam. I'd love to come and have you teach me. He said, Jimmy, you're not listening to me. We come to the dojo together, we practice. And I said, well, Sam, you've been training for 35 years. I would be honored to be taught by you, but I don't know what we could possibly practice together. And he taught me, he said, Jimmy, he goes, life is practice. Everything in life is practice. And we just keep going back to the mat, to the dojo floor again and again and again and again. And from that day since, I've realized that everything is practice. And it's so perfect when we practice. Think about what we practice in life. We practice how to use our emotions to empower ourselves. We practice how we think. We practice how to take action. We even practice our psychic abilities sometimes. Why should we not accept that we also need to practice our ability to have faith. God, the universe, the divine, is nothing but a metaphor for you. There are no beings that exist outside of you. God, the universe, lives within you, and your power comes from your ability to choose your thoughts. What if instead of worrying about your health, what if instead of busting your butt to get ahead financially, what if instead of micromanaging the outcomes of your day and the hours within your day, what if instead you had the faith that you were never in it alone? What if you just allowed? What if simply you did your part by taking action, used baby steps, and visualized the top of the mountain without worrying about the path you would use to get there? So in the days ahead, practice. See God as a divine friend, as someone who's always at your side. Ask for your own personal team of awakened beings / angels to guide you along the way. Think in constant terms of gratitude and appreciation, like you did earlier in this session when you thought about how grateful you were for what's already happened magically in your life. Expect the unexpected. Expect good things to emerge even when you don't think they're coming. You know the magical serendipities are out there. Find ways to enrich yourself through books and movies or conversations with friends that are like-minded. And then lastly, know that it's already happening. The force is with you. The magic is in the air. The miracles of life are aligning in your infinite favor. You are deeply loved. So when we started, I started with a quote from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King about faith. And I'm going to leave you today with some other words. The Dr. King said, faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase. I thank you for having the faith to come here tonight and share of yourself and share with me, and who knows where it's going to go from here. Here's some other words about faith that I find particularly moving, and it's interesting to see how well they relate to every single section in our book. And I'm going to pull up a little screen share here again, so you can actually look at the words as I read through them. Bear with me. And this will also show you how many diverse places these ideas of faith come from. So lose not heart or fall into despair, for you will be superior if you are true in faith. And that's from the Quran. Remember that success is a journey, not a destination. Have faith in your ability, and you will do just fine. Bruce Lee, a martial artist, one of my favorite people. You must not lose faith in humanity. Humanity is an ocean. If a few drops of the ocean are dirty, the whole sea does not become dirty. Mahatma Gandhi. Sometimes life hits you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. Steve Jobs, one of the most brilliant businessmen of all time. My faith helps me overcome my negative emotions and find equilibrium. The Dalai Lama. One of the things I learned the hard way was that it doesn't pay to get discouraged. Keeping busy, also taking action, and making optimism a way of life can restore your faith in yourself. Lucille Ball. You know I have an affection of redheads, so I had to go there. Once the seed of faith takes root, it cannot be blown away, even by the strongest wind. Now that's a blessing. From Rumi. Truly, I tell you, if you have faith, even as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. Thoughts become things. You see, sometimes the most powerful messages, they emerge exactly when you're ready to hear them. And on Friday night of last week, when I'd finally finished writing down all these parts to this program, and I dug up all the quotes that I wanted to, I felt like there was something missing, maybe like a nice little video clip or something to kind of tie the whole thing together. But I didn't really have time, and we had to go to Southern Illinois this weekend for Christiana's grandfather's funeral. So I just kind of accepted that things were okay and they'd be fine, and I stopped micromanaging the outcome. And Christiana and I sat down with a late night snack, and we just dialed up a movie and waited to pick something on Netflix we could agree upon. And it turned out we wound up watching The Bucket List with Morgan Freeman and Jack Nicholson. And we chose it because we thought it was going to be sort of a light-hearted comedy, but it actually was really powerful and thought-provoking. And as the movie wound down, I realized exactly why we had picked that movie, because the universe was about to give me the missing piece. And here it is.
It's indescribably beautiful. Love flying over the polar cap. Love the desolation. Stars. It's really one of God's good ones. So you think a being of some sort did all this? You don't? You mean, do I believe if I look up in the sky and promise this or that, the biggie will make all this go away? No. And 95% of the people on Earth are wrong. Life has taught me anything is 95% of the people are always wrong. It's all faith. I honestly envy people who have faith. I just can't get my head around it. Maybe your head's in the way. Carter, we've all had hundreds of these discussions, and every one of them always hits the same wall. Is there a sugar plum fairy or not? Nobody has ever gotten over that wall. Oh, what do you believe? I resist all beliefs. No Big Bang, random universe. We live, we die, and the wheels on the bus go round and round. What if you're wrong? I'd love to be wrong. If I'm wrong, I win. Not sure it works that way. Oh, you're not claiming you know something I don't. I just have faith.
I just have faith. And what more could you possibly need? So we've covered 6 chapters of this program so far. The next time we're going to talk about something really light and fluffy, the meaning of life. But seriously, folks, this has been a wonderful adventure. I thank you for having the faith in spending time with us all today and advancing yourself down the path to living the life of your dreams. And I encourage you to come out for our final session when we're going to put a bow on that gift that we're all in the process of receiving. I can't wait to see you next time. Thank you so much.
Yay, Jim! Thank you. That was wonderful.
Woo-hoo!
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would love to open up the space for questions for Jim, comments for Jim, and then any reflections, like anything that you're taking away or anything that you saw Jim do as a trainer that you noticed that you want to bring to the attention of all of us, or that you yourself learned tonight. Anything like that. So if you have a comment or a question, just unmute yourself and dive in.
I really appreciated how just absolute and confident and sure, and there was just no doubt or question. It was like, it just is this way. And it was like so easy to be drawn into exactly what you were saying, because I felt like I didn't have to question whether or not what you were talking about was something you believed in. It was just so absolutely clear, and it was very lovely. So thank you.
And thank you for that compliment, Deb, and I receive it with love. I will say it didn't start that way. So when we first started teaching this program and there was that conscious question about God and the universe and all that stuff, we stepped in very gradually. And it was really only after covering the material for about a year and having a situation where someone asked me to teach at their business but not get too spiritual on them that I said, I can't do that. It is spiritual to me. This is my treatment of the program. So like, it is what it is for you. Like maybe that means you don't teach to corporations. Maybe it does because corporations are changing, but allow for yourself to step into that confidence gradually.
Yeah, thanks. Because I'm dealing with that right now. So thank you for that.
You're divine.
Jim, I appreciated that. I'm sorry. I appreciated that you constantly anchored us in where we were within the scope of the program. You always kept our heads and our hearts anchored in, okay, we've come this far, this is what we've done, and then this is what's coming at the end. And so thank you for that, because I was never lost. I was never confused. I always know exactly where I was.
Thank you for that compliment, Laura. And I think it's really important as trainers that we all recognize that we've got to help them connect the dots in their brain, right? You can cover the material however you want to, but you have to keep going back and saying, this is how what we learned here applies to this, because that allows them to literally connect the dots and make the image visible to their brain.
Yeah. I want to second that. I liked that you did that at the very beginning of the call and kind of led us down the path. Because sometimes we think like, oh, they covered that, we don't want to treat them like they're in kindergarten. Well, actually, we're all like, we're learning this. We need the repetition. And it also, like, the more we talk about it, the more we say it, the more we lead them, the more connections they make, the more steps. So great job reviewing. We should continue.
One of the things I learned from being in martial arts, and in particular from that guy and other people, was that you have to enter everything you're doing with a beginner's mindset. If you come in trying to show or even tell yourself in your own brain what you already know, you're blocking the pathways to new information coming in a different way. So, in martial arts, you do the same thing over and over and over again until you can't stand it anymore. But it's the same way when you're teaching people about their individual power. Like, they need to continue to be reminded of how infinitely powerful they are, and you keep going back and reminding them.
Speaking of your martial arts, that was one of my comments that I especially appreciated you putting in those personal stories. When I'm doing classes too, again, showing how it worked in your own life or being able to reflect and look back. That was riveting. I really enjoyed that story. Thank you for sharing that.
And thank you for noticing that, Cato. And as you know, storytelling is a big part of what I do, and I really love storytelling a lot. So you need to have the confidence as trainers to understand that talking about yourself is not a problem. They need to hear about you. You are their inspiration, and any story that you tell is going to be relatable to them in some way, shape, or form, because Wendy brought up the hero's journey, right? Everybody's hero's journey is the same. There's like a desire. The desire leads you on a journey. The journey takes you through some challenges. The challenges cause you to find a mentor. Your mentor leads you to a source of awakening. The awakening brings you to a spiritual enlightenment, and the enlightenment brings you back to the top of the circle when a new desire buds. So when you're sharing a story about yourself, everybody feels what you're feeling, and then they feel it too. So thank you for that. That's powerful. Who else was there? I think Carol. Unmute yourself, Carol.
First of all, thank you very much, Jim. I really loved your presentation. Secondly, I want to say I really enjoyed the way you tied in love and gratitude. Those I really focus on myself. This is my love and gratitude water.
Yeah.
I drink every day. Blue bottle, put it in the sunlight. So the more love and appreciation you have, the more you draw into your life, and every little tool helps.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining us, Carol. It was really great to see you again since Santa Fe. Yeah, they are the magic ingredients in everything in life. Wendy.
Jim, I wanted to say that I liked how you incorporated in your slides a quote from Bruce Lee. I like that because martial arts was your passion. You brought your passion into the entire picture. And so that quote from Bruce Lee, just positive reinforcement about what's important in your heart.
Thank you for noticing it, Wendy. I appreciate it.
Jenny wanted to say that this was fantastic, and she says thank you to you for an awesome session, and that she appreciates us. And Gretchen also had to run, but she wanted to say, Jim, thank you. You had such a peaceful, assured delivery. She's leaving the call inspired and uplifted, and that she loves you.
Thank you. And I love her, and I'll send her a message and tell her so.
Yeah.
Anybody else? I think we're done.
Wait. No, wait.
Okay. I'm not going anywhere.
Oh, hi, it's Terry. I just wanted to say the same thing, Jim. You make me want to be, you're such a great presenter. I'm aspiring to be that eloquent delivery and calm in the face of the you know, it seemed like there was a fire on the other side of the camera, and it would not have flustered you. So, kudos. Really beautiful. Yes, thank you.
And I can add too how impressed I am with your organization, Jim.
Thank you.
You're so well organized. I am green with envy.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to respond to both of those wonderful compliments and say both of those things are learned skills, right? So sometimes people go, oh, well, that guy, he's just got it, right? And some people are very good at presenting. Yes, I understand that. But just like Mike says, when you come to your first IP conference, get out there and practice. I can tell you that 15 months ago, I said to my wife, webinars don't work. There's no way to connect with people online. It has to be in person. And she said, give it a try and see where we're at now, 15 months later. So, and organization is a skill. I'm not particularly organized at home, and you can ask my wife about that, when I lose my keys and I can't find my wallet and all that other stuff. But when it comes to content, there are actually tools and tricks that you can use. What you don't see at home right now is that I have 2 studio lights. I'm running a second computer in front of me with an additional PowerPoint. I've got a video cam, webcam, high def behind that, so I can look at the camera, read what I've got for my notes, and talk to you at the same time. That's not magic, that's training. Somebody taught me how to do that, and you can learn how to do that too.
Yep. Jim, I want to comment on something too.
Yes.
And just for the benefit of everyone, but one of the things that I really liked was that you created some safety in the container at the beginning of the call. And one of the ways that you did that was by telling us that what we needed, like that if we have our workbook, we need that. And if we don't have it, it's totally okay. And that if you have to get up and you have to go, it's okay because it's recorded. Like the way that you told us what was going to be happening, but also made everything okay and normalized it is great facilitation. And I wanted to point that out.
Thank you. And for you trainers that are either starting or have done a few workshops and trying to, take it down the next road, that's essential that you really continue to give the people in your audience, whether it's 6 people around your dining room table at home or you're standing on a stage in front of 20 people, is constantly let them know that they're okay. They're doing fine. Like if you have this, great. And if you don't have that, that's fine too. And like when you're finishing up exercises, especially, I always say, if you didn't have enough time to finish that, remember, you can go back to that later and give it additional attention, because there's people going like, oh my God, I'm not good enough. I didn't get this done. So you need to remind them that they are good enough and continue to connect those dots for them.
Yes.
Hi, Jim. This is Lee in Seattle.
I love her. I love you too.
Hello, we love you too. Fantastic presentation. It was really tight and everything was dialed in.
Thank you.
I love the way you were able to connect the dots. Just to reinforce that, that was the main thing, is the way that you were able to frame the session with where we've already been and where we're going with this.
Right.
And keep keep bringing it back into making more connections. I also appreciated your sharing just now of like some of the behind the scenes stuff in terms of how to make this seem so seamless and effortless. One of the things that I had an insight about as you were describing the 3 questions in the what to believe section was even though the workbook encourages the word God and using the word God or divine intelligence, awareness, and what have you, the word that kept coming to me was energy, and it's a pretty it's a very universal word because when I say God, somebody else may have a different interpretation of God than I may have, or what have you. And sometimes God is a really charged word for people who don't believe in God, whereas energy is a pretty benign and more acceptable or more people can fit that on or try that on for size if they've never explored this before. So that was an insight that came that I thought might be worthy of sharing in terms of using energy in there.
Absolutely. And I always love your shares, B. I love your feedback, and when we work in the groups together, I love that you're there because you have such a great insight on all this stuff. 2 things that I would always, well, one, I want to share with you. I work for a visionary named Richard Melman, who is the founder of Let Us Entertain You Restaurants. And he has what he calls his 5 Ps. Proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. So like literally, like that's why things look seamless, the word that you used, because you prepare it, right? And it doesn't mean you have to work for hours and hours and hours and hours and stay up at night and torture yourself and it's got to be perfect. Allow things to not be perfect, and that's fine too. And then in terms of energy, I think that's a great idea. And I think everybody out there should do exactly what feels right for them. I will say this, I am 100% confident teaching with the word God now and the divine because that's what I believe with every fiber of my being. And if that doesn't resonate with someone, I've gotten to the point where I'm okay that they're not the ones out there that are for my message. There are plenty of other people out there that they can connect to, find, relate to, resonate with, whatever. But my message is going to include the divine and spirit beings and angels and all that other stuff because that's the way I live my life.
Yeah, and one of the things that Gretchen shared in our IP Mastermind training is just use the words that work for you.
Absolutely.
And both you as the presenter so that you can feel completely in alignment and congruent with your message so that your nonverbal messages are in alignment with your verbal communication. And then likewise, encouraging people, if the word I'm using doesn't quite work for you, substitute the word that does work for you, that type of thing. So whatever
Mike says that all the time. How many times have you heard Mike say that exact same thing on stage? I mean, this is his material. Yeah. He created it. All we're doing is putting our own individual stories into it, bringing our own signatures to it. There's things in the workbook I didn't cover. There's things that I enhanced based on my treatment of the material. And you should be confident to do the exact same thing when you're creating your material.
Thank you so much for everything that you do.
All right. Thank you, everybody. This was absolutely lovely. I had so much fun.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for a great way to close out this series. Thank you so much, and for being our male presenter. We're so happy to have you. I just want to say that Chris Brezik says hello to all, and he wants to tell you that you did a great job.
Thank you.
That Sharon, who's in Adelaide, South Australia, she's listening. She can't speak because she's at work, but she wanted to say hi to all of us as well too.
What a great audience. Thank you so much, and so many of you, for coming out and giving up very important things in your own life, like playoff hockey games, etc. So love you all.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Cheers. Salut.
Good night.
Good night.